We're back with another team selection video ahead of Double Gameweek 25, and I've had so many different transfer plans. I haven't really finalized one of them in particular, but there's one pathway which I'm leaning more towards, and it includes a -4 hit, although the free hit is certainly not ruled out of the equation. Be sure to check out the best free hit team video, as well as the best wildcard team video, the transfer tips, everything else we released this week, and also the deadline stream tomorrow on the Friday. Be sure to tune in for that as well. If you end up enjoying this video, you know what to do. Smash the like button, subscribe for new, all of that good stuff. It really helps out the channel, so thank you very much to everyone who's already done so. And without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. Despite some mega returns recently, that's now 2 successive blanks for Kepa Arrizabalaga, and Chelsea lost at home to Southampton. I'm actually not completely surprised, despite Chelsea obviously struggling all season. The main reason why I wasn't too confident of a clean sheet was the fact that Thiago Silva, amongst other key players like Reece James, was left out of the squad, and that just didn't fill me with confidence of a clean sheet. But whenever Chelsea do keep them, you know how likely Kepa is to get 7, 8, 9 or even 10 pointers. So I'm still not too concerned about him. I think he's one of the best goalkeepers to get on the wild card. He's got the double in 29, he doesn't blank in 28 and also in 25, so he's still a good option despite facing Tottenham next, but still not too concerned about him. And also Chelsea defenders like Badiashile could still offer good value. It's the attackers, even the midfielders like Mudryk, Joao Felix up front, that I just can't really bring myself to buy from the Chelsea ranks right now. It was another woeful week for my backline. Trippier blanking with a 1-pointer, conceding 2 goals to Liverpool, and Newcastle were just so open in the opening portion of that game. They went down to 10 men. You did fear the worst. Maybe they would kind of collapse, concede a 3rd or 4th. It didn't happen, and Newcastle still have Bruno Guimaraes and now Nick Pope to come back from suspension, and that's where things can definitely improve. And Newcastle have still kept the most clean sheets this season. They've conceded the fewest goals, and they still have the 3rd highest goal difference of any team in the league. So they're still a decent outfit. Kieran Trippier is the best defender in the game, so I don't have any concerns about him. And then next up is Ben White, who has been blanking for quite some time now. He was obviously left out against Man City. He had a very shaky first half against Aston Villa, but grew into the game, and he was also involved in the goal that Bukayo Saka scored to get Arsenal back into the game. And Arsenal defensively have been a bit of a shambles in recent weeks. Despite the comeback against Aston Villa, they just keep on conceding chances, and the likes of Bailey, Ollie Watkins and Buendia were causing some really big problems throughout the match at different stages of the game. So Ben White and another 1-pointer, not too surprised by that unfortunately. But Luke Shaw started, got the clean sheet, a 6-pointer. Leicester should have scored a goal or 2 before Man United ended up dominating the game after Rashford scored those crucial goals to put them ahead. But before that, Leicester was certainly causing problems, and United were a bit fortunate not to concede. So another poor week for my backline, not as bad as last week, but still pretty poor nonetheless. And now let's move on to the midfielders. It was an impressive week for my midfield, starting with Bukayo Saka. He picked up a yellow card for an argument and a bit of a fight there going on between the players, but he scored an amazing volley to put Arsenal back into the game, and he has been so consistent in recent weeks. He's not great for double-digit returns and bonus points necessarily, but he's just so consistent. Look how many times he's returned: 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pointers. He's been very consistent in that regard, especially in recent weeks when Arsenal have maybe struggled a little bit and dropped some points in crucial games. But Saka has still been an ever-present, a constant, always dragging Arsenal through these difficult times, and he has been very impressive. He is one of the best captaincy options for Gameweek 25, and also potentially for future doubles or future game weeks in general as well. He's definitely one to consider alongside Rashford and Erling Haaland for the captaincy, although I would rank those two a bit higher than Saka in general. Saka is still one worth mentioning, and he definitely is a contender in most of these game weeks. Next up is Martin Odegaard, who missed an open goal, a crucial chance set up by Eddie Nketiah, but he still picked up 3 bonus points, and in the second half he grew into the game. He grabbed the game by the scruff of its neck, and Arsenal needed their captain to step up, and he did in a big way. He deserved all 3 bonus points despite that miss. He was one of Arsenal's best players on the day, and Saka, of course, was another contender, Jorginho as well. But it's good to see Odegaard and Saka returning, being consistent over the course of the season, despite Odegaard maybe dropping off a little bit in recent weeks as well. The other 2 midfielders include Andreas Pereira, who came in for me for Riyad Mahrez. I think if Mahrez started, he had a good chance of returning like he did against Leipzig in the Champions League overnight. But Andreas Pereira, a 3-pointer, can't complain too much. Still a decent return, better than my defenders for the most part, so no many complaints there. And the last midfielder is Rashford, who's been absolutely scintillating. I have a few regrets about not captaining him. He was definitely consideration if you check out my last team selection video as well. I ended up going for the kind of popular choice, the one that I felt would score the most points, of course, but a 15-pointer by Rashford, 2 goals, 2 bonus points. It was Bruno Fernandes who was the man of the match with 9 chances created, but Rashford has been so consistent, and ever since the World Cup, he's just a different player. He showed some signs at the beginning of this season under Ten Hag, scoring a brace against Arsenal, also scoring against Liverpool, but it's now at this stage in 2023 where he's really coming into life and hitting his prime. He's doing a great job and potentially dragging Man United into a title race as well. So really impressive by midfield, a polar opposite of the defense. Now let's complete the team with the 3 forwards and then going into the team selection portion of this video. In recent weeks, the forward line has been pretty underwhelming, and it has been summed up perfectly this week. Harry Kane got an assist, and that's about it, setting up Heung-min Son, who came off the bench and scored against West Ham. But that was the best I got from my 3 forwards this week, which is very surprising. Erling Haaland blanking, missing some crucial chances against Nottingham Forest. I mean, I just didn't expect that. I thought my forward line had a good chance of returns all over the board this week, but it just didn't happen. And the final forward was Ivan Toney, another blank, and very disappointing stuff. At least he didn't get booked. I'm looking at the positives, of course. Tony's 2 yellow cards away from suspension because he's on 8 yellow cards at the moment. So really, I thought there would be goals amongst all 3 of these players, or at least some returns. Only 1 assist from Harry Kane, and definitely very underwhelming. It was the midfield that kind of carried me this week, and if it wasn't for that, I mean, this could have been one of the worst game weeks for me all season, because the defence, apart from Luke Shaw, the goalkeeper and the forwards, just very underwhelming stuff across the board here. But there you go, that was my 50-man squad. Let me show you the points and the rank and all of that stuff first, before going on to the main part of this video and my transfer plans. I captained Erling Haaland like many of you, and I do regret not going for Rashford, but I think it was a very close decision, and ultimately the kind of juxtaposition, the huge difference in points, the deviation, whatever you want to call it, it has been a bit underwhelming, a bit frustrating, and I think it was a real opportunity missed not to go for Rashford as captain. I think if I had done so, I would have not only maintained my rank, but potentially also gone up a bit and get another green arrow. It has been a few red arrows on the trot now, after a mega run of 6-7 game weeks in a row with a green arrow, but there you go. You can't always go up. You're going to get some decisions wrong, and that's the way it goes. At least I got my bench order right, and I had the right player coming off my bench in Andreas Pereira. You got to look at the positives as well, and there were some good things I did this week and also some bad decisions too. I got 53 points overall, which was pretty underwhelming, and I've gone down to 95k from around 90k, and just a few weeks ago I was around 77, so I'm looking to push on, maybe creep into the top 50k and then push on from there, but it's going to be tricky. There's a lot of good managers around me making good decisions, transfers, they've got a good chip strategy as well, so I need to get all of that right, and the captaincy I think is where I really need to get that spot on pretty much most weeks from now until the end of the season. Be sure to check out the league. The link is in the description below, and the league code is 86EX3J. Very easy to join, and you can also check all the other links that I always encourage you to have a look at in all of my videos. But now let's go into the team selection and my proposed transfers, a potential -4 hit to set my team up for double/blank Gameweek 25. I don't expect a clean sheet from either of my goalkeepers this week, but I'm going to favour Kepa Arrizabalaga over Danny Ward, and Chelsea have been fairly decent defensively in recent weeks. Their main problem is scoring goals and winning games. I think they've scored 4 goals in the last 10 matches, but all I'm concerned about is a clean sheet, which is possible against Spurs, but I would give the North London club the edge in this matchup. They are the better team this season, and Chelsea aren't reliable. Apart from their defenders and Kepa Arrizabalaga, I would go nowhere near any of their players, including Joao Felix, who could become a good option at some point, but things just aren't clicking at the moment, and I think Chelsea could have a managerial change very soon. I could potentially have 3 double game week defenders in my ranks, including Ben White facing Leicester away and Everton at home. I could see 1 clean sheet there for Arsenal, but as I've said earlier, Arsenal just haven't been solid enough defensively. They're too vulnerable, and I think it's a bit too easy to score goals past them. They're gifting goals to the opposition like they did against Aston Villa and Man City, but Ben White remains a good option until the end of the season. Once Arsenal can fix those defensive issues, once Thomas Partey and Gabriel Jesus get back into the side, I think that could change things dramatically. So Ben White is in here. I'm not going to make a sideways move to another Arsenal defender or even to Trent or Robertson. I don't even have the funds for that, so that's why Ben White will just remain in the side, and I'm quite happy with that decision. him. Next up is Tarkowski, who could come in. I need budget defenders who have a double. He fits the bill in that respect. I could see a clean sheet against Aston Villa at home, but I don't expect another 15-pointer against Arsenal, although I could be wrong about that for sure. And Everton have been very solid in home matches under Sean Dyche, of course. A very small sample size, only 2 home games, but I still expect Everton to do just about enough to stay up, and I think the home form under Sean Dyche will be a really big factor contributing towards that success. Next up is Kilman, who I'm not really expecting much of. He's really just a double game week defender who can maybe get 4 points. Anything more would be a bonus, but I'm not really a big fan of those fixtures. Fulham away could be a clean sheet, but even then, Fulham have been in great form, and you would back them to actually win the game against Wolves. So this is a bit of a tricky situation. Of course, just a few weeks ago, Wolves beat Liverpool 3-0, but that was at home, and Liverpool have shown some attacking prowess in recent weeks as well. The final defender, I'm not really a big fan of him, is Cucurella. He's been one of my worst transfers. Just anytime I get him, he's pretty awful. Whenever he gets a clean sheet, he's on my bench, and he faces Tottenham away now. What I could do is, instead of getting rid of Trippier and Luke Shaw to get Kilman and Tarkowski, I could get rid of Cucurella and keep Luke Shaw, because until the end of the season, there's no doubt Luke Shaw's the better option, even if he blanks in 28, and if Chelsea's double is better in 29, it doesn't really matter. And Chilwell's back in the side now. Cucurella just isn't a good FPL option, and that's why I am considering keeping Luke Shaw, sticking with 10 men and selling Cucurella instead. But that's what I'm currently going for, this back four, and now let's complete the rest of the team, starting with the midfielders, who I'm hoping and expecting a lot from. There are 3 players and midfielders this week that I think are almost essential, and that includes Bukayo Saka, who's a great captaincy option. He ticks along nicely, very consistent, and even if he doesn't get double-digit returns in one game, he's only done it once this season against Liverpool, he can still get a 6 and maybe a 9-pointer, and that would be a very healthy return in this double game week. So I'm really considering him for the captaincy. It's going to be between him and one other player, and despite Odegaard having a really high ceiling and a lot of bonus points potential, I just don't think his recent form has filled me with confidence, and I'd rather go for Bukayo Saka if I wanted to captain an Arsenal player. But he's worth considering. He'd be 3rd on my list, but his recent form definitely is something to take into account. I know he played well against Aston Villa, but in terms of the goals, that has been drying up a little bit, and his overall FPL returns haven't been as consistent as Bukayo Saka since the World Cup, in particular in the last 4 or 5 game weeks. So that will be an interesting one, but I'm favouring Saka, and Salah could be my other transfer in for Riyad Mahrez, who's been in great form, and I would expect Mahrez to start against Bournemouth away. So it's not exactly the easiest transfer for me to make, but I'd rather sell Mahrez and keep Rashford and bench him, and also I wouldn't be able to afford Rashford to Salah with the other transfers in mind. I actually don't have any money left over once I bring in Tarkowski, Kilman and Salah for the likes of Luke Shaw, Trippier and Riyad Mahrez. So it's a bit of a tricky situation for me. I also could consider the likes of Darwin Núñez or Gakpo, but I really want to get Salah. He's the only Liverpool player that I really want to get in double game week 25, and also to have beyond this double game week. The next player, the last one in the midfield, is Andreas Pereira at home to Wolves. There will be some conflicts here with the likes of Harry Kane versus my Chelsea defenders, or Kepa Arrizabalaga, and Andreas versus Kilman. So this is not going to be, a week where it screams points. I'm probably going to have a pretty low scoring week, and that's why a free hit could be perfect with this mixture of blanks and doubles. But I think with my team structure, it might benefit me more to use the free hit in Game Week 28, or possibly in the future like double Game Week 29, especially if I wildcard just before then. So I've still not laid out my chip strategy entirely. I've got some ideas, but I haven't settled on something entirely, and that could also play a part in what I ultimately end up doing for double Game Week 25. I'm usually confident in my front three, but Ivan Toney's blanking this week. He's been blanking a lot recently anyway. Harry Kane's facing Chelsea at home, and his returns have slightly dried out a little bit. He's still very consistent, of course, but not enough double-digit returns for me. Only the one against Crystal Palace since the World Cup that really caught my eye, and that also helped propel me up the ranks. I need more of that from Harry Kane, who's been so consistent. You can't really knock him too much. He's been far better than any other premium besides Haaland. But when I look at my forward line right now, there are definitely some issues. Erling Haaland might not even start against Bournemouth. I think he will, but it also wouldn't surprise any of us if Pep Guardiola decided to bench him. And Haaland was a bit lackluster against Leipzig. To be fair to him, he did make some great runs, but he wasn't found by his teammates. I would expect him to start, though, against Bournemouth and score, but you just never know. He also blanked in the reverse fixture, let's not forget, and definitely this 11 isn't going to be perfect. There's going to be some issues, but it's also not too bad considering the fact that it's not a free hit team, and I'm also well set up for future weeks as well. But the chips are definitely going to play a part. And things can change very quickly in football and as a result in FPL. So these plans aren't finalised, they're not concrete, but it's a provisional plan which includes a -4 hit to get Tarkowski, Kilman and Salah. Let's see how it pans out. Now let me show you the captaincy and the bench order before wrapping up this video. I would have 3 blankers on the bench if I decide to keep Cucurella and sell Luke Shaw, and it would be Botman, Rashford and Ivan Toney on the bench alongside Danny Ward, who does play, but it is against Arsenal at home. And the next kind of big question is the captaincy. It's between Saka and Salah, and I'm currently favouring Saka, despite Salah really impressing me recently against the likes of Everton, Newcastle and Real Madrid, but Bukayo Saka has been so consistent over the course of the season, and I'm also backing Arsenal to do pretty well in these 2 fixtures, although they can be a bit tricky. They lost to Everton very recently, and Leicester have been informed despite their comprehensive loss to Manchester United. So let me know your thoughts in terms of the captaincy. Are you going for Odegaard, Salah, Saka, maybe just Haaland as usual? Let me know what you're doing. It's going to be an interesting discussion. Of course, I'll put some polls out on my channel as well, but that is my starting 11, the captaincy and the bench, which is self-explanatory too. Let me briefly show you my plans for Gameweek 26, or at least how it would look like. I'm probably going to roll the transfer in that week as things stand, but then again, things can definitely change, especially if I decide to wildcard in Gameweek 27. The more I look at it, I would rather keep Luke Shaw and sell Cucurella, even though Chelsea play Leeds United at home in Gameweek 26, because there's no guarantee that Cucurella will even start the game and get me the points that I would like, and my bench would be pretty decent. I know Botman faces Man City away, you've got Kilman at home to Tottenham, and Andreas Pereira there, who would be first on the bench, but the starting 11 itself is pretty solid, and then the captaincy would probably lie between Haaland, Saka, and Marcus Rashford, and despite Rashford having a tough fixture on paper in terms of the FDR, I would actually favour him potentially against Liverpool away, and he could end up being my captain next week, but that will definitely be a decision to make. It's between him and Saka primarily, and the starting 11 I think is pretty solid, a 3-4-3 formation, and I don't think I'd have any benching dilemmas as things stand. But let me know your thoughts, your situations, your chip strategies, everything else you want to discuss. Leave it in the comment section down below, and thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed or found it useful, smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to over 300 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 20,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check the links in the description below for the Patreon, channel memberships, Twitter, Instagram, Discord server, and FPL League. All of that is there. I wish you the best of luck for Double Gameweek 25 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.